Hello and welcome to Wejustquoting the podcast, where we do more than just quote. This is Wejustquote Wednesday, and today I'll be talking about Results Day 2021, the Olympics, and this week's quote of the week, which is revealed in the podcast. Stay at the end to get a clue about next week's podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know exactly when a new podcast comes out, and tell a friend, tell a friend, tell another friend. Now let's get into it. So last week I spoke a lot about the Olympics, so you're probably thinking, why am I doing it again? Well, if you listen to the podcast, you would have known that I said I'll talk a bit more about it this week. I read out some posts by the BBC last week to do with the Olympics, which is how I've been keeping up with it all. And at the end of last week's Wejustquoting Wednesday podcast, I said sportsmanship is so beautiful and so lovely to see. Now I'm going to talk a bit about that later on, but before I do, I want to talk about Results Day 2021, or I should say Results Days. So on the day of this podcast coming out today, we have the A-Level and AS Results Day, which came out yesterday, and the GCSE Results Day tomorrow. Just want to say well done to everybody in years 13 and in year 12 you take AS levels. I hope you all got the grades you wanted, and to those receiving GCSEs tomorrow, I wish you all the best. I want to talk about Results Day though, just like Results Day in general, and how it is a very sensitive day and there's a lot of emotions and there's a lot going on in the air and a lot riding on people's results. And I believe that we have to look after one another and ourselves, first and foremost ourselves, but also making sure that others around us, our friends, our classmates, are all okay. Now, I'm not saying go and ask for their grades, 100% not. Like, you shouldn't be going around saying, hey, what did you get? And trying to like boast and show off and flex what you got and make them feel bad because you don't know what people got. You don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. If they want to tell you, great. If they don't, respect that. But it is very, very scary times, and I just feel like we have to be there for one another, look after one another, and you need to deal with your emotions for one. But it's all about what happens next. Don't get so fixated on now and what's happening now, because it's what happens next, how you deal with what happens next, that's important. Okay, you've received these results, you've got these grades, but it's about what happens next. And to those who aren't receiving results, you can generalize this to life. Life will throw us challenges, moments of disappointment, sad moments, etc., etc., etc. Remember, life is a lesson full of many challenges and all that, but it's what happens next. It's about putting ourselves in the driving seat and, you know what, taking control of our lives and taking control of what happens next. So to all those who have results and will get results, it's about what happens next. And to those who won't have results in life, always think about what happens next. When you get this moment of disappointment or even happiness, whatever happens, always think, okay, now I've got to put myself in the driving seat. I'm going to take control. What am I going to do next? So I said I was going to talk more about the Olympics, and last week I read out some posts by the BBC about events happening in the Olympics. I'm going to read a few more. Yes, the Olympics have already ended, but I just thought why not celebrate all the stuff that have happened, go over some of the highlights, and carry on going through the posts that the BBC have posted about, and then I'll talk a bit about sportsmanship and why I think it is so beautiful and so lovely. So yeah. Qatar and Italy high jumpers agree to share Olympic gold. An incredible Olympic high jump final ended with both Qatar's Olympian and Italia's Olympian taking gold medals in the name of sportsmanship. After an exhausting 2-hour competition, the pair couldn't be split, having recorded best clearances of 2.37 meters. The athletes were offered a jump off, but Barsham asked the Olympic official, Barsham being the Qatar's Olympian, official if they could have 2 gold medals instead. The steward nodded and said, "If you can agree to share it." Olympic cyclist crashes as handlebars break off but gets up to race again. This is the extraordinary moment Australian cyclist Alex Porter crashed out of the men's track cycling team's pursuit after his handlebars appeared to snap off. The equipment failure sent him crashing headfirst on the track during their initial qualifying attempt at the Tokyo Olympics. Alex not only managed to walk away with just cuts and grazes, but got back in the saddle to race again. The team managed to clock 3:48.448 in their rerun to place fifth, meaning Great Britain, Olympic champions at the last 3 games, will take on world record holders Denmark for a shot at the gold medal. Transgender athlete Lauren Hubbard out of Olympic weightlifting. The Olympics' first openly transgender athlete Laurel Hubbard made a history but failed to record a successful lift in the women's plus 87 kg weightlifting. The New Zealander became the first openly transgender athlete to compete at an Olympics in a different gender category to the one in which they were born by participating in the event. But after a failed attempt to lift 120 kilograms and 2 failed attempts at 125 kilograms in the snatch, her competition ended. "I'm not entirely unaware of the controversy which surrounds my participation at these games," said Hubbard after her exit. "And as such, I would particularly like to thank the IOC for, I think, really affirming its commitment to the principles of Olympism and establishing that sport is something for all people, that is inexclusive and is accessible." US shot put medalist Raven Sanders explains her podium X protest. After winning silver in the women's shot put event at the Tokyo Olympics, American athlete Raven Saunders made this gesture on the medal podium, raising her arms and crossing them into an X shape. "It's the intersection of where all people who are oppressed meet," said the 25-year-old who is black, gay, and has spoken about her struggles with depression. "I'm part of a lot of communities," added the athlete, who twerked in celebration after her final shot put throw. However, demonstrations are banned on the Olympic medal stand, and it's unclear if she will face any penalties. Norway's Karsten Warholm smashes 400-meter hurdles world record to take gold. Norwegian athlete shattered his own world record with a time of 45.94 seconds to take home the Olympic gold medal in the 400-meter hurdles event. His reaction was priceless too, as the shock at his own achievement morphed into sheer joy. At one point, he even attempted to rip his top apart. "I can't believe the time, it's so fast," he told BBC One. "A lot of time I'm asked about the perfect race. I said it didn't exist, but this is the closest I've ever come." Simone Biles wins bronze as she makes Olympics return in women's beam final. American gymnast Simone Biles, who won bronze as she made her Tokyo 2020 return, having withdrawn from 4 other finals to protect her mental health. With all eyes on her in the women's beam final, she bounced back in style with a strong performance, giving her a score of 14.000. However, the competition was won by China's gymnast, who scored 14.633, and her compatriot taking silver with 14.233. Artistic swimming has begun at the Olympic Games with some impressive routines from the competitors. The athletes can spend over 2 minutes of their routine underwater, and concussions, broken toes, and even passing out in the pool are not unheard of. The duet free routine event started yesterday and continues until Wednesday, with Kate Shortman and Izzy Thorpe wearing costumes made from recycled ocean plastics competing for Great Britain. Olympic swimmer Emma McKeon has won her 7th medal at the Tokyo Olympics. The impressive collection makes her the most successful Australian Olympian at a single Games. She claimed her 4th gold with a win in the 50-meter individual freestyle this week. McKeon later went on to win her 5th Olympic gold as part of the 4-time 100-meter medley relay team. Her total Olympic medal haul is now 11, 5 golds, 2 silvers and 4 bronze. Olympic park skateboarding dominated by 3 young women under 20. The Olympic medalist of the women's park skateboarding event was among the youngest at the Tokyo Olympic Games, 19-year-old, a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old. Brown, who made history at Great Britain's youngest summer Olympic medal event, cried tears of joy after the event in an emotional moment. When asked what she's going to do next, hang out with some friends and party. Meanwhile, Japan's hometown heroes scored to victory with some impressive runs to win glory for the host nation. At times, the skaters may have looked impossibly tiny against the giant ramps and bowls, but they emerged as big winners. I'm going to leave it there, leave on a high. But they are just a few more of the posts the BBC put out about some news in the Olympics. If you want to hear more, you should check out last week's We Just Quote Wednesday, link in the description. But I do want to talk about sportsmanship and this idea of sportsmanship, because I feel like it's very important and so beautiful and lovely to see, as I said at the end of last week's We Just Quote Wednesday podcast. Make sure you stay at the end of this week's We Just Quote Wednesday podcast to get a clue about next week's We Just Quote Wednesday podcast. So the definition of sportsmanship is fair and generous behaviour or treatment to others, especially in a sporting contest. We saw with the high jumpers that they shared the Olympic gold, which was really generous behaviour, and therefore sportsmanship. And I love it because I like when people come together to be generous and look after one another. This is part of treating of others, and if treatment of others, and fair and generous treatment of others. And if we link that back to what I was talking about, looking after one another and being there for one another and checking up on one another with the results day thing, we can tie that in, even though that's not a sporting contest. It's this idea of being fair and generous and treating other people. And I think I believe we all have responsibility to look after other people, to treat other people with respect, to have integrity within ourselves, all that kind of stuff. And I think it's so beautiful to see, sportsmanship, to see people cheering for others and being genuinely happy for people. I spoke about this phrase, good for you, last week, and how I feel like in this day and age, it's taken automatically in a negative, sarcastic context. And it shouldn't be, you should be genuinely happy for somebody and say, good for you, well done. And so this idea of sportsmanship, I really, really, really like. It makes me very, very happy, and it's good to see. And I think I believe we all have a role to play in being good stewards, in being generous and treating others with respect. That saying, that quote, treat others how you would want to be treated, all that kind of stuff. I looked up some quotes about treating others well and found a few that I'm going to read to you. But the main message I want to get at is treat others how you want to be treated, yeah, but also just treat them well and let us look after one another. I think it's very important to look out for other people and not just yourself. When we treat people merely as they are, they will remain as they are. When we treat them as if they were what they should be, they will become what they should be. By Thomas S. Monson. No matter what happens in life, be nice to people. Being nice to people is a peaceful way to live and a beautiful legacy to leave behind. By Martha Angel. No act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted. By AESOP. Do right, do your best, treat others as you want to be treated. By Lau Holes. Friends, companions, lovers are those who treat us in terms of our unlimited worth to ourselves. They are closest to us, who best understand what life means to us, who feel for us as we feel for ourselves, who are bound to us in triumph and disaster, who break the spell of our loneliness. By Henry Alonzo Mez. Treat other people's home as you want them to respect yours, because what goes around comes around. By Anna Monna. I'm going to start with the quotes there because I believe you get the general idea. I hope you have the general idea. If you have any quotes of your own about this topic or even another topic, please comment or email them to wejustquoting@gmail.com, link in the description. And yeah, tell me what you think. Tell me some of your quotes. Speaking of quotes, it's a new week, so it's a new quote of the week. And this week's quote of the week is made by myself, and it's "We're in the end game now." According to Google, definition of end game is the final stage of a game, such as a chess or bridge, when few pieces or cards remain. I don't mean end game in terms of chess or in terms of cards. I mean end game in terms of our lives. And going back to this idea about results day, those in year 12, this next year is the end game. This is the last year before A-levels. Last year before A-levels, last year before university. Last year of A-levels, last year before university, all that kind of stuff, or apprenticeships, whatever you want to do. And it's this idea about being in the end game. Anyone who's seen Avengers Endgame, if you haven't by now, then I don't know where you've been, because Endgame was massive. But the Avengers were in the Endgame. They were fighting all these fights all these years, and it led down to this man, to Thanos, who created all this destruction. They've lost so many people along the way, and it came down to this fight where Steve Rogers was standing and was about to fight Thanos and his army all on his own, when in his ear he heard, "On your left." Sam Wilson came out with all the other fighters in the portals to come help him fight, with Tony Stark and Thor by his side. They were in the end game. Every single one of those fighters was in the end game, fighting to essentially destroy Thanos, restore peace, and fix the timeline and do all this and that. Everything you do in life, have a goal. Have a big goal. Have many goals and have a big goal. Have your big goal, and so that everything you do up until the point is for that moment. Anyone who's seen The Next Step, is a TV show on CBBC. There's 7 seasons now. I've watched every single season ever since it came out. I'm a huge fan, and I can't wait for season 8. I'm waiting eagerly for it. But at the end of every competition, because Next Step, actually, I'll tell you what The Next Step is for those who don't know. So for those who don't know, The Next Step is a drama series, and while preparing for regional dance competition, a group of dancers undergo a series of challenges and are compelled to put their relationships to the test. Basically, at the end of the day, it's about dance competitions, and every single time they have like the big final before they could possibly win, they always say it all comes down to this. All the blood, all the sweat, all the tears, all the drama, everything all comes down to this. You're writing an exam, a big exam. All the hours you've put into revision, it all comes down to that. It all comes down to this. You're in the end game now. And because I want this to relate to not just the people who are taking exams, but to everyone. Have your big goals in life. Have your mini goals. When you get to that big goal you want to achieve, everything you've ever done comes down to that moment, and you are now in the end game. You were in this battle where You've got to put your all into it. Your everything. It all comes down to this. We are in the end game now. I'm in the end game now. Whatever it is in your life, whatever it is you want to achieve next, whatever big goal you have, when the time comes to achieve it, because you've done the mini goals, you will be in the end game, and you will have several end games in life. And I want to leave it there because this is very personal. I want you to think about this for yourself and think about this idea of the end game, this idea of this big goal. What is your end game? Thank you for listening. This has been We Just Quit Wednesday. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and do all that good stuff. Look out for mini podcasts and We Just Quit shorts in between We Just Quit Wednesdays, and stay tuned for next week's We Just Quit Wednesday. If you have any quotes, questions, or topic ideas, email them to wjqwednesday@gmail.com. Thank you again for listening, and bye-bye for now. I'm happy for you.